Good afternoon, everyone. This is the latest chapter in this fight that we are waging to protect the rights of people in this county and in the whole state, really, to cast their votes by mail and to have real access to the electoral process. I thought it was over yesterday, because on Monday we found out that they had passed this amendment in the legislature that said that we were going to Cuyahoga County or any other county that actually had the nerve or the guts to do what we think we're entitled to do by law, which is to send out absentee ballot applications. And if we did that, we were going to take a 10% penalty amounting over $1 million, almost $2 million to Cuyahoga County alone, if we availed ourselves of that right. When we had our last press conference, which was in front of the main federal courthouse, we delivered a complaint to the Justice Department about those actions. Why? Because they're coercing us and trying to intimidate and basically extort us out of exercising our rights that we have as public officials and as citizens. Within an hour or two of that, the backtracking started down in Columbus, and by 5 o'clock that day, they had withdrawn their amendment. I thought that was the end of it for the time being, but what history has taught us is that they are going to try every tactic that they can possibly dream up to try to intimidate us, and they are doing it again. This time, their brain trust has decided to have State Auditor Dave Yost threaten the elected officials, who again were voting in the best interests of our constituents and the entire state's constituents, and threaten with holding us personally liable for the costs of mailing out absentee ballot applications. Now, our estimate is that if we were placed in a position where we had to mail these things out ourselves, the cost would be somewhere in excess of $300,000. So they're talking about personally, Auditor Yost is talking about personally levying that type of fining against the individuals who had the courage to stand up for voting rights. It is a new low, and it is outrageous, and it is not going to work. Why are we outside of bankruptcy court? I can't speak for my colleagues, but my wife and I are raising 4 children, and we certainly could not afford that kind of bill. And it would certainly be an incredible financial penalty for us to pay. And that was the intention of what Mr. Yost did. He's trying to intimidate us by threatening our personal finances. And I can speak for myself, I know, and I think my colleagues that are here with me, it will not work. I don't care what they do next. So he can threaten me with personal bankruptcy, levying fines against me, whatever he wants. I am not going to be deterred with this. Now, the ironic thing is, if there's anybody that isn't living up to the responsibilities of their office, it's Mr. Yost, and I'll tell you why. We are entitled as a government entity and as citizens of Ohio to fair and impartial services when it comes to the functions that the auditor is supposed to provide. He is governed by actually some federal regulations. And I'll just cite, it's something called the Yellow Book, but it's a standard of auditing standards that all auditors, including the Auditor of State, we believe, are supposed to abide by. And here are some of the things that it says. It says that an auditor is supposed to have true independence. And that means independence of mind. It means independence in appearance. And it's important that they maintain those standards of impartiality so that we can trust their results. This is a case where an auditor who's extremely partisan has made partisan personal comments about this issue, has even gone on his campaign website and prejudged what the effect is going to be, or the outcome of his audit. It's outrageous. So, far from us, we're doing our jobs. We'd like him to do his job in an impartial manner. I've directed my law department to look at the legal standard to see if we can have legal grounds to have Mr. Yost recuse himself. He's basically telling us what the verdict is before he's done any examination of the facts. And it's totally irresponsible and unprofessional for an auditor to do that. So not only are they trying to coerce us, not only are they trying to intimidate us by hitting us in the pocketbook, he's also now failed in his duty as a sworn elected official for the state of Ohio to provide impartial auditing services. He ought to be embarrassed, and he needs to recuse himself from any investigation or any audit that occurs. And I'll just leave you with this one final thought. This was obviously targeted at me and the other elected officials that are here to try to intimidate us out of doing what we think is right. But it's not just targeted at us. This is having a chilling effect. The fact that the auditor of the state of Ohio is saying that public officials who stand up for voting rights are going to be personally, financially liable is sending a message to elected officials, county officials all over the state, saying, here's what's in store for you if you do what Cuyahoga County did. I was talking to a county official this morning, and they were talking about doing the same thing we did. But he was talking about how he had to go get an estimate to figure out how much he might personally be liable for. That's why they're doing this. They are showing they're willing to go to any lengths. And all I can say is they need to go back to the drawing board because it will not work. We are going to persevere and maintain our position in this. I want to thank the council members that are here behind me. If they want to say a few words, I'd invite them to do so if they so choose, but they had the guts to stand up to this kind of intimidation. I was in law enforcement for 8 years. I investigated and prosecuted people who used to pressure and extort people for a living. I've seen the real thing. And if these guys in Columbus think this is going to work, they don't know us very well. It's not going to work. And if there's any technical legal questions, our law director is here. He's kind of leading our legal effort in this matter. So I'll turn it over to anyone who'd like to say a few words.
Sure, thank you. As a member of the Cuyahoga County Council, I, for one, will not be intimidated by Mr. Yost's threats to hold us personally accountable and liable for allowing and enabling our citizens to vote. I was elected by the people of this county, and that's to whom I'm accountable to. So we're going to stand up to this threat and not be intimidated and protect the rights of our residents to vote.
Since the debacle in 2004, when a couple 100,000 people were not able to vote because of long lines and other problems, we have made good progress in the state of Ohio in bringing about fair and accessible elections. I am just dismayed that there are now people in state government that want to turn back the clock and make it harder for people to vote. We need to think outside of the box and think of ways to make it easier and more accessible for people to vote in Ohio. And I stand by our executive and my colleagues on the county council in doing the right thing to support voting rights in the state of Ohio.
Excellent. Any questions?
Can the law director talk about the legality? Can they do this? Is there any precedent?
Well, and I think these standards are issued by the U.S. Controller. They govern every auditor, every government audit, and Auditor Yost is bound by them. So I think we'll give Auditor Yost the benefit that he never gave to Cuyahoga County. We'll give him the opportunity to recuse himself. And if he doesn't recuse himself at that point, we'll take the next step in terms of forcing him to recuse himself.
Any other questions?
Can you talk about what county official you were talking to?
There may be some county officials that decide on their own to speak publicly. But that's what I meant when I said I knew that it had had a chilling effect, because that individual isn't sure that he wants to go on the record yet. So he's literally calculating what the personal financial cost could be. And what have we come to in this state where elected officials have to think twice about what they're going to say about voting rights or how they're going to stand up for voting rights because they're not sure they're personally wealthy enough? Now, some of our public officials, like Governor Kasich, happens to be a millionaire. Maybe it's not an issue for him. But for most of us, this is a very real issue. And it was for this gentleman as well. So we'll see if other counties end up being able to resist that kind of pressure. But that's my concern. We're not just speaking up for ourselves. It's speaking up for all the other elected officials that I think are also being sent a not very subtle message by the state.
Given that the Secretary of State has said that he is going to send absentee ballot applications unsolicited this year, I mean, what do you stand to lose by not, calling these events and sort of? It seems like now this is a war of words. I mean, what do you stand to lose by?
Look, this is not because excuse us for not trusting the same group of people that were found to be in violation of federal voting standards last year that we're supposed to trust them that they're going to continue to send these out. They very easily could have put in the law to say that if they don't send them out, we're able to do so. They didn't do that. They took away our ability to do it and said, trust us. We'll do it in the future. You can trust us. I don't trust them. All of their actions have spoken very clearly. They are not for expanded voting rights. We had to basically leverage them into agreeing to do it in the first place. So the fact that they've said, well, we're going to do it in 2014, fine. We believe that we have to keep them honest on this. If they send them out, we won't. But we want to have the ability to do so if they don't, as they have tried not to in the past. This is a group of people that have consistently restricted voting rights and violated federal voting standards. And now they want to create a system where it's entirely up to their good graces. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them when it comes to that. Any other questions? Thanks, folks. Thanks for coming.